Some files aren't meant to be seen, but at Mugello, one slipped through quietly, almost like a whisper in the dark, and for the few who noticed it, everything changed. On the surface, Ferrari's Mugello test looked routine, just another mid-season development run. To drivers, a few tweaks to the suspension, and data collection ahead of Spa. Business as usual. But behind closed doors, deep inside Ferrari's technical headquarters, something unexpected happened. A file landed in a senior engineer's inbox. No subject line, no project code, no warning, just a plain label, private driver comparison. It was time-stamped at 2:14 a.m. No one knew who sent it. The routing path suggested it came through a restricted internal channel. Most would have deleted it without a second glance. But this engineer clicked. What they saw wasn't Charles Leclerc versus Lewis Hamilton. It was something far more calculated. It was Hamilton versus himself. Telemetry from Lewis's Mugello lap taken just hours earlier was overlaid with data from the W11, the very car he drove during Mercedes' peak in 2020. The same W11 many still call the most dominant machine. In Formula One history, this wasn't about lap time. It was an echo. Hamilton had replicated his W11 lines down to the last detail. Same corner entries, same throttle application, same steering traces. He didn't come to test upgrades, he came to recreate, to remember, to compare. And what he left behind wasn't typical driver feedback. It was a blueprint, or maybe a warning, because when that engineer studied the overlay, something became painfully clear. The SF25 didn't respond like the W11. It didn't trust the driver. It didn't surrender to the road. It hesitated. This single file dated July 20th, just 4 days before Spa changed everything. From that moment on, Ferrari stopped measuring the SF25 against other cars. Instead, they began comparing it to a ghost. And Mugello doesn't let you hide. It's brutal. Old-school layout forces clarity. Fast corners. No room for compromise. The car either works or it doesn't. Ferrari had brought a rear suspension tweak, just a minor geometry change, meant to tame mid-speed and stability. On paper, it was nothing major. But Hamilton made a quiet request. Extra laps, solo. Late in the day, when most eyes had turned elsewhere. It wasn't unusual for a veteran. But the engineer reviewing the session afterward didn't find feedback. He found intention. Deliberate. Surgical. Almost like Hamilton wasn't driving the SF25 to improve it. He was dissecting it. Every throttle, lift, every steering twitch, every brake press. It was all intentional, methodical. Hamilton's inputs weren't just practiced. They were identical to his W11 laps. When the side-by-side overlay flashed onto the engineer's screen, the room fell silent. This wasn't what anyone expected. The team had been bracing for the usual post-run chatter, maybe a note on tire degradation or some vague comment on brake temperatures. But what came instead was brutal, crystal clear. The SF25 wasn't unpredictable. It was unresponsive, too quiet, too obedient, too empty. Later, Hamilton put it in one devastating sentence. It feels like I'm talking to myself in this car, and that hit harder than any lap delta ever could. For the engineer who had championed the SF25 from day one, who believed in its philosophy and set a path that was like a punch to the gut. He'd spent months defending it, shaping it, protecting its concept. But telemetry doesn't lie, and this comparison wasn't an opinion, it was evidence. The steering torque came late, the rotation lagged behind the inputs, always a half beat behind. Like the car needed to think before it moved. It didn't rebel, but it didn't dance either. The W11 had been different, alive. Hamilton would whisper a command through the wheel, and the car would answer instantly, faithfully. It was like a duet. The SF25, it responded like it had cotton in its ears. One engineer said it under his breath. Feels like we've been tuning earplugs, not instruments. That was the moment everything shifted. No more defense. No more trying to patch up surface-level symptoms. At Mugello, urgency took over. The Mugello debrief turned into a war room. Hamilton didn't raise his voice. He didn't assign blame. But his instructions were sharp, exact, not suggestions, demands. Sharper steering bite, faster rack response, high-speed servo adjustments tuned for trust. Recognition of load transitions mid-corner. It was feedback so refined that only a handful of drivers in the world could even detect it, let alone request it. Some engineers recoiled. After all, this was Ferrari, a team where drivers learned to bend around the car, not the other way around. But Hamilton hadn't joined to conform. He came to lead, and when the room froze in silence, he cut through it with a single line: if it doesn't talk back, it doesn't deserve the pace. By midnight, a new steering geometry map was already circulating. Rack modifications were greenlit. What would normally take weeks was now unfolding by the hour. By morning, Leclerc was testing the updated system. At first, it looked promising. The rear end felt more planted. Lap times climbed, but inside the cockpit, something was off. The car had changed, but not in a way he recognized. It was too sharp, too clever, like it was thinking for him. When Leclerc stepped out, his tone was calm, but his words were heavy. It's faster, but it feels like it's second-guessing me. That one sentence told the full story. Leclerc had spent years molding himself to Ferrari's nuances. He learned to live with hesitation, with delay. Now the car wasn't waiting for him anymore. It wasn't shaped to his instincts. It spoke a different language now, one with a British accent. Inside the team, the divide grew. Some pushed for compromise, a balance set up to suit both drivers. But others, they saw the shift clearly. This wasn't about individual style anymore. This was evolution. The SF-25 had stopped asking. It had started obeying. Even Hamilton's own engineer was taken aback, not by the changes, but by the speed of it all. At any other team, this would have meant committees, spreadsheets, bureaucracy. But this, July 20th, Hamilton runs the overlay. July 21st, geometry maps revised. July 22nd, new prototype rack sign off. What usually took a month had been done in 72 hours. Someone inside summed it up perfectly. This isn't feedback. This is leadership. Hamilton never brought up Leclerc, never compared. He kept his eyes on the machine. He didn't argue. He didn't repeat himself. He just escalated firmly, quietly. As one team member said, he doesn't vent. He diagnoses. Just a few weeks ago, Silverstone had echoed with frustration raw team radio, heated exchanges, a driver pushing through the static of a car that wouldn't listen. But now, something had changed. Ferrari wasn't hearing emotion anymore. No shouting, no desperation. What they were hearing was precision, a sharper tone, stripped of noise. Hamilton wasn't pleading. He was dissecting, and the final simulator session before Spa said it all. The newly revised SF-25 rolled out. It didn't twitch. It didn't pause. It rotated on demand. The rear end, once nervous, now gripped with authority. Steering input matched response clean. Linear, exact. The data didn't just suggest improvement. It confirmed it. And Hamilton's verdict? It's not perfect. But now, at least, it listens. The lead engineer pulled up the latest overlay as SF-5 versus W11. What appeared on the screen was chilling. The lines traced the same arcs, same inputs, same exits. The ghost of Mercedes' dominance now haunted Ferrari's data sheets, not as a dream, but as a near match. No one clapped, no celebration, just silence, because for the first time all season, the car wasn't just reacting to the track, it was communicating with the driver. It wasn't obeying blindly, it was understanding. As the sim lights dimmed and Hamilton stepped out, there were no interviews, no cameras, no smile, just presence, calm, collected, focused, and somewhere, deep inside Maranello's walls, the same engineer who'd once opened that anonymous file whispered what everyone else had been too afraid to say. The scary part isn't that he knows what he needs. It's that now we do too.